Like, we got to gamify our own discipline.
Yeah.
We have to understand how we work as a human being and then play against ourselves. So if it's me against me and your opponent is you, are you studying your opponent to know how to beat them? Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Leaders Only podcast. We talk about business, leadership, mindset, and it's pretty much anything revolved around building an incredible life. And we got a Q&A session going on today. I got my main man, Christopher Knott.
What's up?
What's up, Christopher? How are you, brother?
Blessed. How
Blessed? Good, man. I just like how you wore the same hat as me, just in a different color.
We just do stuff
It's like I'm
that
wearing your
on a
hat,
regular
you're wearing
basis.
my hat, and together we're wearing a hat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're basically the same person.
Nobody knows what I just said, but it's perfect. Couldn't be more perfect. How's the beginning of the year been for you?
It's been a lot. I'm super excited. I know that this year is going to be way bigger than any other year we've had, but it's been really good.
Good, man.
It's just that anxiousness to like get it all flowing perfully.
Yeah,
know what I mean?
Sense. Well,
So
I don't think anything ever flows perfectly.
no,
you know what I mean?
it
Like,
doesn't. It doesn't.
But I always tell people, like, there should be a rhythm, though. You know what I mean? Like, I love it, like trying to get things flowing perfectly, because nothing's ever going to be perfect. But I think we should strive for perfection.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, one thing I always tell our staff is, like, perfection exists. Perfection exists
Because you want them focused on
I want them focused on not missing a beat. You know what I mean? Like, people that say perfection doesn't exist never strive for perfection, so they'll never come close to it.
Yep.
But those that believe perfection exists will strive for it. And even though it cannot exist, the simple fact that you're going after it, knowing that you will never attain it, puts you ahead of everyone else who will never go for it at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I tell my people, like, hey, perfection exists. Well, why is that? Because I don't want you missing the comma when writing a sentence. I don't want you, forgetting to do this or forgetting to do that, or seeing a piece of trash on the ground and thinking nobody will notice it. No, in a perfect world, that trash shouldn't be there.
So true.
That. So the attention to detail is at a higher level. So
Yeah.
perfection doesn't ever exist, but the fact that you're striving for it, I think is a good thing.
I'm going to take that. Everybody in my team's going to hate me because I'm going to start talking like that.
I literally tell people that perfection exists.
I love it.
Right? You'll never attain it because there's only one thing that is perfect, and that's our Creator.
Yeah.
Right? And the way you were designed, right? You were perfectly designed in His image. But I think most people, like I said, they push excellence aside because they're like, well, it doesn't exist.
And justify it.
You'll never get near it if you never chase it.
Yeah. Well, what are you being intentional about in 2025? I know that perfection does exist in your mind. So Q1, what's your main focus right now? What are some things that you're doing to explode your new year?
Yeah, I think there's levels to it, right? So there's like level one. I mean, it depends on where people's business is. You know what I mean? Like, if you're in the starting stage of a business, you got to control the controllable, right? Like, you can't control what everyone else does, but you can control you. You can control your actions. You can control your behavior, your positivity. You can control how many phone calls you make today. You can control how many prospects you get, how many sales you close. You can control your personal production. If you're in a recruiting type business, you can control how many recruits you're personally getting. You can control your personal income. So I think if you are in the beginning stages of a business, right now, your focus should be, I have to control what I can control.
Yeah.
Right. And then by you controlling what you can control, as you start to grow your agency, those within your agency or those within your business will see you controlling the controllable, and then they will copy you because they want what you have. And they know that the only way to get what you have is to do what you do. And so now they start to control the controllable because they're watching you do it. And now all of a sudden you develop a leader.
Yeah.
Right. And so if I was at the beginning stage of it, I'd be thinking, all right, I'm going to control the controllable. I'm going to run volume where the volume comes into the business. They see me controlling the controllable. I become a copy worth copying. They copy me. Now I start to duplicate myself. Right.
Yep.
So that's like level one. Level two is your business starts to get bigger. Then as your business starts to get bigger, it's, can I help those in our business control the controllable?
Yeah.
Right? Can I help them control the controllable and then be inspiring to those who are learning how to control the controllable? Right? Because I think there's two melting pots in any type of team building business, right? Melting pot number one is I have 80 percenters that want to be 20 percenters that aren't yet. And then you have 20 percenters that are moving and grooving. And so can I have a melting pot of 80 percenters that have an environment where they are learning, developing, and improving so that way they can one day become a 20 percenter. And then those that are 20 percenters, can I help them go from I'm in the 20% to I'm in the 20% of the 20%. And the next level is the 20% of the 20%. And then it's the 20% of the 20% of that, right?
Yep.
And so can you just continue to stretch them and stretch them and stretch them. So that's kind of my intention right now. It's like, I'm controlling what I can control, as always, because no matter what, you have to be, it's like a champagne tower. You know what I mean? Like at a wedding where they have the champagne towers.
Yeah.
If you stop pouring champagne into the top glass, then the rest of the glasses will not get it. Yeah. So the leader at the top always has to be that example. So I'm controlling the controllable in every area of my life right now. I'm controlling what I can control, and then that's pouring over into our business, right? And then I'm helping those that are within our business that are in leadership roles. I'm helping them dial things in. I'm helping them figure out where their holes are, where their deficiencies are, right? We're a couple weeks into the year right now, right? So if we're a couple of weeks into the year right now, what has already broke? Like what has already broke?
Yeah.
What have we already lost track of? What are we already off on? What are we already not doing? Where have we already gotten lazy? Where have we, like, you know what I mean? Like what foundation is there already a crack in? Like I'm helping them audit those things right now because I'm looking at, like, for instance, you, right? You have your goals for 2025.
Yeah.
So as a leader, my thing is, how do I help Chris hit his goals in 2025? How do I help, Agent A hit their goals in 2025 and Agent B hit their goals in 2025? If I help everyone hit their goals in 2025, we have a record-breaking year. So you go from, can I go do it? To I help other people go do it. And right now with the position I'm in a position where I'm trying to help everyone else go hit their goals. So I'm the support, I'm the strategist behind the scenes trying to help them go execute. I'm the accountability coach that nobody likes, right? I am, you know what I mean? That's just part of it. I mean, you and me talked about this the other day. Like,
it's love-hate.
It's love-hate. Yeah, absolutely. Like I played soccer, right? I love the game of soccer. I hated sprints. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this is part of it. Like if you played football, you love the game of football, but you hated Hell Week, right? Like you loved motocross. I'm sure you loved it when you ate crap and landed face down in the dirt. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure you love it when you broke your ankle. I'm sure that was fantastic. No, but you love dirt bikes, but you don't love every part of it.
Right.
But because you love it so much, all of a sudden those things that you don't like have purpose because of what you do like. You know what I mean? And so it's helping people stay on track, helping people stay accountable, helping people continue to do what they committed to doing. I think that's a big deal. Like everyone has big goals and dreams going into a new year. Everyone has big goals and dreams for what they want their 2025 to look like. But are they going to be on track after the first quarter? Right. Are they going to be on track after the second month of the year? Are they going to be on track after 30 days? You know what I mean? I think I said this on the last podcast, but it's something like more than 70% of people stop showing up to the gym after 3 weeks of starting a membership.
It's just insane.
It's because they make a decision, they don't follow through. So it's like, can we keep people accountable to go follow through on everything that they said they were going to do? That's my intention right now. Getting people to follow through on everything that they said that they were going to do.
I love it. You just said something, you're talking about basically habits, right? A lot of people fall off, 70% of people fall off 3 weeks in. What about the elites? Do they struggle with the same habits and in the beginning of the new year, or what do you think the elites struggle with?
It's a good question. I think to be in that elite category, you don't have vices. You don't have vices. You don't have things that you're normally fighting at that moment. I'm not saying that everybody does. Like I'm talking about the elite. Like you look at Tom Brady. Yeah. You think Tom Brady had certain vices that was no. The reason he's the greatest quarterback of all time is because he eliminated all the vices out of his life. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like Kobe Bryant. How did Kobe Bryant become the best basketball player? Debatable. Or LeBron James or Michael Jordan, however you want to slice it. How are these guys the best? It's because they eliminated everything out of their life that was a vice. You know what I mean? And I think when you're talking elite performers, they're not battling with the same things that other people. It's not that they didn't battle with it. They all battled it at one point, but they no longer battle those things. You know what I mean? Like, I remember coming up in my career, there was always little things that I was battling. I'm in a stage now where I'm not battling things. I'm just improving what I have.
Gotcha.
I'm no longer in the eliminating game. I've already eliminated. I'm out of that game, right? I'm in the, can I do better with what I have? Can I become better? And I think most people, they're in the elimination game. You know what I mean? So when you're talking to elite performers, they've already went through the elimination. All the bad habits have already been eliminated. The bad associations have already been eliminated. This, I'm not saying they're perfect, but the majority of the things that keep somebody from becoming great, the majority of the things that keeps somebody from becoming a peak performer, an elite performer, in order to be in that category, you've already eliminated almost everything that would keep you from getting there.
Right.
You wouldn't be in those shoes if you didn't eliminate all those things. So I think they're in the multiplying effect right now. Now it's just like, how big do they want to build it? Right? It's no longer, can I get there? It's, I'm there. Can I multiply it?
Mhm.
And whether or not they want to multiply it just comes down to how big their goals are, how big their dreams are, and how comfortable they are. So I think if there is a vice, if there is a bad habit, it's a lot of times comfort.
Totally. Well, what about all the people that are trying to shift their habits right now and completely radically transform who they are as a person? How do you think those people can avoid burnout? Because I feel like so many people try to do everything at once, cold plunge, sauna, like wake up at 4:30 a.m. and finish their morning routine at 2 p.m. Like what are some things that people can do to avoid burnout?
Well, what's the best way to eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
Nope, one bite. Just eat the whole thing at once. No, I'm just kidding. No. I think there's a couple things. Number one, if you try to make this like massive dramatic shift, most people, you will default back to not doing it anymore. Right. So it's like, if you're used to waking up at 7 o'clock and then all of a sudden you're like, all right, I'm going to wake up at 4 a.m. moving forward. You might be able to get it done once, but after a couple of days, you were
Going to be
burnt
exhausted.
out. Yeah. There's a more effective way to go about doing that. And I would say the more effective way to go about doing that is like go in 15-minute or 30-minute increments. You know what I mean? So it's like, if today, let's just say today was Monday for simplicity, and I'm used to waking up at 7. Well, maybe for tomorrow, I'm going to wake up at 6:45. And do 6:45 from maybe Tuesday to Thursday. And then on Friday, I'm going to change it to 6:30. So you go in increments where your body can adjust without it being like a dramatic shift and or change. So I think whatever adjustments you make, try dialing it down versus just cold turkey shifting something. Because it's hard to change cold turkey. It's like, you see somebody that's extremely, extremely overweight, right? You don't throw them in a gym for 5 hours.
Right.
You start with, hey, let's go on a walk outside.
Totally.
And then once we can build the habit of walking outside, now let's make sense. If you have somebody that's used to eating really, really bad and maybe they drink a liter of soda every day and 87 bags of chips. Well, how about instead of drinking a liter of soda every single day, we dial it to 4 glasses a day and then 2 glasses. And then we do 1 glass of soda. And so it's in increments because it's hard to just make a shift and change overnight. So that'd be the first part of it. The second thing that I would say is you need some type of accountability partner and or coach. Extremely important, right? You need someone, kind of like what I talked about earlier. It's important to have a mentor that's in your ear or a coach that's in your ear that's holding you accountable. Right? Like, why do you think personal trainers have a career? You know what I mean? It's because they get paid to hold people accountable to do what they a lot of times know how to do already, and or they can know what to do after maybe a month of working with them. They know what to do, but they choose not to because it's easier to be comfortable. Right? Like here's the deal. It's easy to do the work. It's also easier to not. Make sense? So it's easy to do the work. It's just easier not to do the work, which is why most people settle for that, right? So you need some type of coach that's holding you accountable. That's really important. And I think a running mate is a really, really big deal. Like having some type of running mate that has big goals the same way you do, that can hold you accountable outside of just a coach, right? Because if you just have a coach in your corner that's like, hey, and they're just always on top of you, like, that's not good. You want someone that you can run with, that's a sideline, right? That's saying, hey, listen, I'm going to go to the gym at 5 a.m. Like, you meet me there, or you a pansy? You know what I mean? Like, you want that in a teammate. You know what I mean? You want that in a teammate. You want teammates that challenge you and push you. Like if we were running sprints and I saw my teammate that was going to beat me, naturally that competition is going to pull the best out of me. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you want that gym partner say, hey, I'm going to like when you text them saying, hey, I don't feel like working out today. They're like, well, I'm going to go to the gym no matter what.
Yeah,
They
and
don't
it
comfort you not wanting to. They make you want to go. You with me on that?
and it,
So,
and it makes you uncomfortable knowing that they win anyway.
oh, exactly. Right. So you want an accountability partner like that. I think that really, really helps. So I think that's important. I think
Do your running mates, are they typically at the same level as you, and or are they way farther ahead when you've looked for running mates in the past?
I've always wanted a running mate that was doing slightly better than me because then it always made me level up.
Yeah.
Right. Um, right now, I mean, things change over your career, right? Like
Mhm.
the part of your running mates shift and change
Yep.
if you're making it happen, right? Like I've, and I don't mean this like in an arrogant way, but every running mate I've ever had was no longer my running mate after like 7 months.
Yeah, you outgrew them.
I outgrew them. You know what I mean? Because I was that gym partner that they would text saying, I'm not going to go to the gym. And I would, you know what I mean? So I outgrew all my running mates. But I've always wanted running mates that were further ahead than me because
So you can catch them.
so I can catch them. But it's also because they know something that I don't, which is why they're further ahead. They're more disciplined in an area or they're, whatever it might be. So I've always wanted somebody ahead of me because I want my association to be somebody that's doing better than me, not somebody doing worse than me. You know what I mean? So that was something that I've always looked for. I think another thing is like competition. Like there's two different types of people we like to compete with. The person that we love, right? Like I love you so much, and the fact that you're beating me is eating me alive. Like that's always a good, motivation for competition because there's respect there. But then there's also the person that you just completely dislike, right? So I think you should have one of both. Right. You should have that person that you really, really love. And a lot of times that's what the running mate is that one that you love. Right. But the person that you love and you care about that pisses you off that they're beating you. Right. Because that will keep you in the hunt and going. And then number two, somebody that you really dislike. Yeah. Right. Like that will get your blood boiling. You know what I mean? So I think that's a really big deal for staying on track with your goals. There's got to be some type of competition in it. Competition brings the best out of people. Competition trumps circumstances. So it doesn't matter what circumstance you are in. If it's like, I got to win here, you know what I mean? Like that's it. Right. So leveraging competition to stay in the hunt, I think is a big deal.
I love it.
Those are the things that I would say.
When I remember when I came into business, like I just feel like it's such a different level now. Like I watched you literally 10x your entire business size and your income in 12 months and then do it again the next year. So for all the people who are super aggressive in 25 and they want that explosive year, what do they got to do to go do the exact same thing?
That's a really good question.
It didn't happen by accident.
Yeah,
I know that for a fact.
Yeah. It's no longer can I work harder. It's can I work more strategically? Can I be more intentional? You know what I mean? I think most people think like I'm just going to work harder into success. That is not how it works. It comes down to strategy. It comes down to effectiveness. It comes down to paying attention to your business, understanding your metrics. Part of it is volume. Yeah. Like you do need volume, right? If you're in any sales business, if there's zero volume, there's zero sales. If there's zero sales, there's no production, right? But part of that is also like, what is your strategy to get more volume? You know what I mean? So that was a big part of it. Like we just became very, very strategic and very intentional. It was no longer, I'm going to work harder and become successful. Because if it was about working harder, everybody would be wealthy. I would like to think most people that live in this country, the majority of them are hard workers. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The problem is they're working hard in a vehicle where there's a cap or there's ceilings and there's limitations to what they can earn or what they can do. Yeah. You know what I mean? But most people are hard workers. They just don't work smart. Right. So I'd say work smarter and harder, not just harder. I would say systems and processes. That's a very, very big deal, right? Like, I think you texted me this the other day and I'm going to mess it up, but I thought it was so good. It was something like simple scales,
fancy fails,
right? Simple scales, fancy fails. And I love that. It was like something that registered with me when you texted me and I thought it was really good because it's true. Right? Simple scales, fancy fails. So I looked at, okay, how do I simplify things? How do I remove thinking? How do I add SOPs to everything that I'm doing, a standard operating procedure, so nobody ever has to think about what to do next, right? In sales, people are always thinking to themselves, what do I say? So how do I remove that? That's friction. The question, what do I say, is friction. How do I remove friction? Let me tell you exactly what to say and how to say it. Here it is. Making sense? So we scripted everything. We simplified everything. We systemized everything. We added SOPs for everything. And we just standardized everything. And when we removed anything that created friction, it then gave us the ability to scale quickly, because we were no longer thinking, what do I do? It was just, can I pump more volume into what I already know, like into it. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
and
Like
what already works.
it's already laid out step by step. You complete one, you go to two, you do two, you do to three, you go to three, you go to four, from four, you go to five. It's already laid out, simplified, simple. You always knew what to do. You always knew how to do it. Now it's, can we just pump more volume into it?
Did you have fancy people in your business when you tried to simplify it?
Yeah.
How do you get the fancy people to revert back to being simple?
Yeah. That's a good question. I know you're dealing with that right now. I would say part one, which is like the route I hope happens, is you have a conversation with them. They become extremely coachable. They take in what you say and they go make improvements and make adjustments. Yeah. Part two is the one I don't like, but tends to be what happens often, is people aren't willing to make those adjustments. They have to get to a breaking point. Once they get to the breaking point, then they make the adjustment. Yeah. Right? Or another one, which is kind of on that breaking point, they don't do it. Someone else they know does it. The person they know goes on to have extreme levels of success following the simple scales. That frustrates them enough. They're like, wow, maybe I should have just been coachable the same way they were coachable.
Yeah.
And then they go out. So what I'll try to do is I'll make an example out of someone, right? Like as a leader, I think to myself, if you're not going to be like, let's say I was working with you. Okay. Let's say I'm sitting down with you. You're not coachable, but let's say your best friend Bob is.
You're shining the light on
I'm
Bob.
going to go make an example out of Bob. I'm going to go show everyone that if Bob just does what I am suggesting, he'll win. And then his numbers will shine bright like a diamond, right? And then his numbers will shine bright like a diamond. You'll look at his numbers and be like, man, I should have just listened. Hopefully you'll fall back in line.
Yeah. That's a nugget. That's a nugget. When you're going into the new year, like obviously there's 4 quarters of every year. Are you only focused on the quarter you're in while you're in it? Or are you kind of like, do you have a game plan for all 4 quarters at the beginning of the year? Or how do you kind of look at the year?
Yeah, that's a great question. I do compartmentalize for sure, right? So like I have an idea of, all right, this is what I want my entire 2025 to look like. Okay. And then I reverse engineer, right? So by the end of the third quarter, this is where I need it to be. By the end of the second quarter, this is where I need it to be. By the end of the first quarter, this is where I need it to be. But I work in the now. I work in the now, because if you're thinking about the end of the year, you're not going to be fired up and excited, right? Like our minds and who we are as people, we want to touch things now. So if our goals and our dreams and our focuses are way too far out, then it's going to be hard to remain excited. But if I have like by the end of this week, I'm going to try to hit this goal. Yeah. Right. Then you're more excited because you have a weekly target. You have something that's within striking distance. Because what are we all chasing? Excuse me.
Happiness.
What are we all chasing? We're chasing happiness. We want to look ourselves in the mirror and be happier with who we are. We're chasing the feeling of dopamine. Yeah. Which is it's the happiness chemical that gets released into our mind every time something goes our way. Right? So let me try to say that one more time without slurring all my words. It is the happiness chemical that gets released into your mind every time something goes your way, you get a compliment, or you're proud of something, or it makes, like, every time you experience happiness or joy, it's the dopamine chemical being released into your mind. Yeah. And so when you have this big goal, it's 12 months out,
it's too far out.
There's no dopamine hits, right? So you need dopamine hits along the way that's going to allow you to be happy with where you're at and the progress that you're making. And so if you were continuously progressing, like, all right, I got, from by the end of this week, I'm going to get here, and you hit that, dopamine. By the end of this week, we're going to do this. And then when you hit that, dopamine, and you start to build momentum in your own mind, and you start to build this reputation with yourself where I'm on track to hit that goal. So you become more excited about the big goal when you hit the small goals that are on the way to hitting the big goal.
Yeah, we're programmed for instant gratification.
Exactly. So
social media, like if you're hungry, do you want to eat later or do you want to eat right now?
Now. Yeah. I'm hungry literally right now.
I know.
All I had was breakfast today and I'm hungry, you know what I mean? But you're exactly right. Like as humans, we want things now. So if we want things now, we have to play a game with ourselves. Like we got to gamify our own discipline. Yeah. We have to understand, like, I think this is, I don't think I've ever talked about this. We have to understand how we work as a human being and then play against ourselves.
It's like
our
ghost. It's like
natural
ghost mode on the old video games.
I don't know what that is.
Like you rate the old racing video games, and there would be like a ghost of your previous race, and you would like go and try to beat it.
Yeah. Yeah. Gamify it, right? Like go up against you, but it's also like studying your opponent. Okay. So you've always heard the saying like, hey, it's me against me. Yeah. Or are you studying your opponent to know how to beat him? And your opponent's you. And your opponent's you. So if it's me against me and your opponent is you, are you studying your opponent to know how to beat him? That's super good. Make sense? Or so you're looking, I'm like, all right, I know that typically me or you, the person I'm competing with, right? Normally myself, I slow down here. Okay, I'm not going to slow down here so I can beat me. Normally myself, I get comfortable here. All right, well, I'm going to make sure that I don't get comfortable here. Normally, this is when I start doing right? And you start, if it's you against you, are you studying yourself to understand what gets you to tick? But then also on the motivation side of things, like what gets you working at a high level? I pay attention to what gets my blood boiling that just makes me want to go work. I pay attention to that.
What are, just curious, what are some things for you?
For me, it's competition, something I really want, right? Like if there's something that I really, really want, like that's costs money or whatever it is, like I'll attach a goal to it. You know what I mean? So like if I go hit X, Y, and Z goal, then I can go buy it. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to
you have to wait till you do.
Yeah, exactly. Because I don't want to just go buy it because I can. You know what I mean? So it's like maybe something I really want or competition or an enemy, right? Like I've always have an enemy. There's always an enemy in my life. And not just the adversary. Like I'm talking about somebody that I'm aggressively going after beating. You know what I mean? And so those are big. But going back to like I understand what boils me. I understand what gets me to move. So I self-create the environment and situations that get me pissed off to go move. Right? Yeah. Like for instance, Michael Jordan. Okay. Michael Jordan, when he would literally be on the court, be like, what did you say about my mom?
and nobody said anything.
And nobody said anything about his mom because he was trying to create an enemy that would get him to tap into the dark side of killer instincts. Make sense? Mm-hmm. So I'm always trying to create my own situation that forces me into a killer instinct where all I see is red. Yeah. Makes sense? I'm always trying to forcefully put myself in that situation. You know what I mean? So I would gamify yourself. Like gamify yourself. What makes you tick? What makes you move? Where do you normally get comfortable? Start to become aware of these things. If you're aware of your own behavior, then you can proactively avoid those things. Make sense? Like for instance, me and my wife, we used to trigger each other all the time. And then when I became aware of her triggers, I intentionally make sure, and I do my best. I'm not perfect, right?
You're not perfect?
No, but like for instance, we used to bicker all the time because I would trigger her, and then her being triggered would trigger me, and then we'd just be like this trigger fest, and everybody's triggered. Makes sense? And everybody's annoyed and frustrated and pissed off and angry and mad but it didn't serve anybody. So then what I learned is I learned what triggered her, and she learned what triggered me. And so people ask all the time, like, do you and Allie fight a lot? And we honestly don't fight a lot. There's certain situations where we get annoyed with each other, but we honestly don't really fight at all. And the reason is because I intentionally go out of my way to make sure that I don't trigger her into a state where that's not good for her and not good for our relationship. So I proactively, so if we're going down a path and I can see us getting there, I retreat intentionally. Because I don't want to be in a bad situation with my wife. I don't want to be frustrated with her. I don't want her to be frustrated with me. So if I see us going down that path, I'll move off the path. And she does the exact same thing with me. Like if she sees I'm in a frustrated state because I'm dealing with something, whatever it is, like she doesn't go she doesn't try to trigger me into a worse state. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what most people do. Like if all of a sudden Allie's having a bad day and I'm like, stop having a freaking bad day. Do you think that's going to make her day better?
We should go find out.
No, because all she wants is comfort in that moment.
100%.
You know what I mean? And so it's kind of understanding that. So we pay attention to our triggers with each other. So that way we can proactively not trigger each other so we can remain in a positive and good state with one another. Well, have you done that with yourself? Have you paid attention to your own triggers so that way you do not go down that path? And or if you can feel yourself going down that path, you can be proactive to get yourself off of it. Yeah. But most people do not go through life with awareness. They're unaware of how they operate. They're unaware of what makes them tick. They're unaware of what gets them motivated. They don't have awareness. I think the difference between, going back to the elite performer question, is I think one of the things that makes someone an elite performer is they can falsify and manipulate their own drive.
Yeah. To make the move.
They can, yeah, exactly. They can falsify, like they can manipulate. Like think about it like this. What is a motivated person? It's an unmotivated person that pretends to be motivated. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that, or that's what a disciplined person is, an unmotivated person that pretends to be motivated. Yeah. What is a brave person? It's a scared person who pretends to have courage. Yep. That's what a brave person is. Well, once again, we play the game with ourselves. What is an elite performer? It's someone that doesn't want to perform, that pretends to be an elite performer. And then all of a sudden they start to show the results of the elite performer. But then what they start to know how to do is they know how to trigger themselves into certain states. They know how to anchor themselves into a state of execution, into a state where they see red, into a state where you can't get them to stop even if they want to. They know how to trigger themselves into a flow state where they can begin working at an extremely level where it's clear, where everything's just flowing, where they're just executing, where they're just moving, where all of a sudden, like how tired they are doesn't even exist. Yeah. Because they're not operating in that realm.
Do you think that most people are actually just unaware, or do you think that they choose to not like hyper focus on it? That way they can justify where they're currently at.
Probably a combination of both, because it depends on the person. You know what I mean? But I do believe most people are just unaware. I think most people have zero awareness of how they as a human being operate. It's crazy. That's why they just react. Most people just react to everything. You know, a problem happens, right? They just react to the problem. Yeah. Versus being aware of, here's a problem. Me reacting doesn't make anything better. What is the solution? Let's move forward. So most people just don't operate in a solution-oriented mind. They don't operate with awareness. Yeah.
Well, as an elite performer, are you thinking in like consistent gains throughout, the next years, or are you thinking quantum leap every single year? Like what is your thought process when it comes to 2 years?
I actually don't consider myself an elite performer.
Okay.
I feel like I'm striving after that.
Do you think that elite performers ever do consider themselves elite performers? And like, when do you think that moment is? I know I just asked you a question before you answered the first one.
I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, here's the deal. I'm not like being humble from respect. Like, I know I'm legit. You know what I mean? Right. But I just know there's so many more levels above. Like, if this is an elite performer, then what is Donald Trump? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, goodness, like,
right.
I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So I just don't see myself as that yet. You know what I mean? Like, I'm performing maybe in more of an elite way than most, right? But there's still, once again, another level. You know what I mean?
So quantum leaps or consistent gains?
Yeah. Quantum. I think just consistent gains is a belief that doesn't serve us. Mm-hmm. Right. This shook me. I forget when it was talked about, but this was something that shook me. So Eric and Sandra, who are obviously my mentors, and I remember I was talking to Sandra, and she said every year we gave ourselves $1 million a year income pay raise. So for 9 years, we made 1 million. The next year we made 2 million. The next year we made 3 million. The next year we made 4 million. The next year we made 5 million, all the way up until 9 million. Yeah. And we got to 9 million. And then one December, we're sitting around and we thought to ourselves, if we're bigger than we were before, how come we can't have a quantum growth? Like, how can we not grow exponentially? Like, why are we only growing by 1 million if we're way bigger?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if our $1 million size grew to 2 million, but now you're at a $2 million size, why did we only grow by 1 million every year? Why didn't we spike? Why didn't we grow? And they said, no, this year we're going to make adjustments. This year we're going to make shifts. We're not going to think we're just going to have this consistent growth. I'm going to grow by 1 million. We're going to drastically shift everything, move everything. And then guess what happened? They went from 9 million a year to 13.2 million within 12 months, right? That was a $4.2 million a year income increase because of the fact
Started thinking differently.
they just started thinking different, right? And I think so many people, they use their past as a measuring stick for their future.
Mm-hmm.
And so because they use their past as a measuring stick for their future, they're looking at, all right, this is what I did the last 12 months. So this is probably what I'll be able to do the next 12 months. Well, what if you can do 40x what you did?
Yeah.
And the only reason you don't hit that 40x is because you just didn't think you could.
Yep.
Most people will never work towards something that they don't think they can achieve. And so they create small goals because they want to go after that versus quantum leaps. So do I think we should be consistently growing? Yes, but I think we need to be thinking in quantum measures. Like there's a multiplier effect to business. It comes down to effectiveness, right? So there is a multiplier. Can we pay attention to the business metrics of our business, right? Like in our business, we know that every licensed agent produces a certain amount of revenue.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I can increase my licensing ratio, then even if we did the same thing, we're going to have an increase in income.
Yeah.
But what if I increase my licensing ratio and increase my recruiting volume?
Then it's going to be explosive.
I just multiplied it. But what if also I increase my persistency, which is the amount of clients that stay with us long term? Boom. Now, what if also I recruit how many dollars in revenue I get per client? So if I'm used to getting $2,000 in revenue per client, what if I went from $2,000 to $3,000 per client? These are all micro adjustments that lead to
a macro result.
Macro results where you can create macro shifts in your business if we just dial in the little details. So most people can actually completely 10x, 20x, 30x their income quickly if they just fix those things. By the way, you asked me earlier, what are some of the ways that we went like 10x our income 2 years in a row or whatever it is?
Yeah.
That was how. We started paying it, like, once again, we were working smart. We started looking at the little details that nobody pays attention to. We started hyper obsessing about. And it wasn't just like, I'm going to think about it. It was like, how do we proactively, or how do we fix it? And then after we fix it, how do we standardize it? And then how do we improve it even more?
Yeah.
And then after we fix it, standardize it, improve it anymore, how do we pump more volume into it, right? And so it was just micro movements that led to macro differences in our income.
Well, make me want to get back to work.
Me too. I'm fired up right now.
Super good.
We'll see you guys later. Tune it out.
Yeah. Well, what is your theme going into the new year? Do you have a theme yet, or do you typically gain that theme going, as kind of the year progresses?
No, that's a good question. Going into last year, I don't normally necessarily have a theme.
Yeah.
I have more of a word.
Okay.
Right. So last year, my word was machine.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Machine. This year, my word is multiplier.
Quantum leaps.
Yeah, multiplier.
Love it.
We're not going to grow in addition. We're going to grow in multiplication. I think with the technology that we have, with the opportunity that we have right now in our industry, I think if we are thinking in addition, we are shooting ourselves in the foot. I think we're in a multiplication moment in time in our business that hopefully would last forever. But I know at least right now, it's something that I've never seen before in the 10 years I've been in the industry.
It's exciting.
I've never seen this in the history of my career in the industry after 10 years. There's a moment right now in history that I think that if people can capture it, they will see multipliers in their business. And so my word of the year is multiplier. We're going to multiply everything. Everything's going to multiply, right? Not an addition.
I think I'm gonna have to adopt your word.
Multiplier. You like it? Boom.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't get me all excited and then not allow me to adopt that one.
You can adopt whatever you want. You know what I mean?
It's awesome.
But yeah, man.
Today's been good.
Today's been really good. You get a lot out of today?
Yes. Like I said, I just want to get back to work now. I just feel like there's so much to do, not enough time.
Good, man. Good. Well, if you're listening to this right now, which obviously you are, that's why you just heard my voice. So I don't know why I said that. So since you're listening to this right now is the better, not if, since you're listening to this right now, I just want to challenge you, stay disciplined throughout this year. Don't let this just be another year. Don't let this just be another year where you made goals and you didn't follow through, or you made commitments and you didn't follow through. Make this the year where everything shifted. Make this the year where everything changed. I really believe that this year is going to be a year of multiplication. I think there's going to be a 25x multiplier on everything that you do this year, but you have to know it. You have to accept that. You got to believe it if it's actually going to happen. And so I just want to challenge you to not miss this opportunity in the lifetime of the opportunity. There's only going to be one 2025. Let's make it a great one. So with that being said, if you got something out of today, do me a favor, like, share, subscribe, tell a friend. Some of y'all listen, but you don't subscribe, and you don't tell a friend. And subscribe. All I ask is that you do that. We put out all this information for free for you. It's not free for me. It's free for you. So all we do ask is that you tell people about it if you ever do get some value. So thank you guys so much. And we'll see you guys next week on the Leaders Only podcast.
Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it.